Some of the others of the younger generation are speaking of this new idea of progress. I find it to be rather peculiar since it denotes the idea of any direction. Not just any particular direction, though not directing towards some end or objective that could be theoretically achievable. Frankly, I'm worried about this movement given that it alludes to change simply for the sake of change. The young people say this idea is coming from communities of other places, full of diversity in skin color, ideas, and way of living. I would say it's happening in other places, but not in our context of living. I have listened to the elders in my community more than most of the other younger generation, and I feel I'm on a path of wisdom rather than idealism. They say that the world of politics, pop culture, search of objectivity and facts, and idealism are purely cyclical. I've come to believe that this wisdom of the elders comes from the disbelief in the cycles that are seemingly progressive to the majority of people in the world. I would choose to live a life related to reality, for no one knows for certain of reality, rather than phantasm and falsehood. I choose theoretical reality over progressive disappointment. Wisdom is living with the inclination and trustworthiness that life is incomprehensibly complex for any human person, or animal for that matter. Foolishness is the belief in the idea that happenings are good for us or bad. Living fully is choosing to embrace that reality is, and that falsehood is the belief that humans are the center of it. Living fully is also embracing the verb be and not do. Embracing is now and not will be or would be. Future is an idea created for humans and by humans for the sake of psychological contentedness and societies running smoothly. It is a bold, unintentional lie, and I won't place my trust in its foolishness. Going beyond this philosophical logic for believing in nearly nothing, the elders are also emphasizing that living within life's complexity, rather than inventing simplicity, is beautiful and worthy. Once I was stripped of any inclination of should morality, I chose to listen to other sources of desires or wisdoms. I chose to place more of my listening towards the totality of my parts, such as body, heart, mind, and spirit, and not my survivalist inner monologue of the mind's eye, or I, the pronoun. I've discovered that most of me is below the superficial level. It was a revelation to realize that I'm an underground forest that is unreachable to people unless we were to dig with new tools. What has been tricky, though, is that most humans won't be willing to accept this due to our desire to trust our inner monologues. Don't even want to consider how destructive it is for culture to have all of the multiplication of inner monologues between unconscious people desiring what wise people find undesirable. For example, I hear that in the outside world that people transport from point A to B, that although it is quicker, is destroying the environmental ecosystem of all animals little by little. They also run on the tools where you stay in one place, which they say makes them physically stronger. I don't know why they don't run from A to B. They would be strong, I don't know what for, and preserving our communal ecosystem that we all are dependent upon. But according to the young generation, the outside world believes they are progressing. And not only that, but that we ought to join them in this apocalyptical destruction of what makes us who we are. The elders say that previous generations described how we humans also rose out of the ground of each like the other plants and animals. If it's true, everything is complexly interconnected in some fashion. It seems to me, though, that the outside world believes progress is where we begin to use tools that separate our living with other living things. I just have I just hope, through the spirit of time as cyclical, that the outside world will return to back to how the way of our elders lived happily. One new idea that has arisen in me that differs from what the elders advocate is an attempt to balancing the time and attention I have towards community and solitude. Based on what I have heard from the elders, our people have valued community and culture as a few of its principal ones. However, I have begun to realize the equality in vitality between community and solitude. Firstly, community is the wisdom that humans are healthier together through flourishing. In community, we have mutual objectives in the realm of economy, social, companionship, and intellectual conversation. We need family and community to even begin to have a chance of surviving and flourishing. This is the purpose of morality, so we know best how to coexist with other humans and even animals. One of the elders told a story in which she described how the feelings of frustration, stress, and claustrophobia with other people, which are merely the negatives with living in a community, are banal compared to being left alone in the wilderness as a young person and perishing alone without even the faintest consideration that you ever existed. Meaning in life can only be found in congruence with community members who are also encountering meaning in their life with you. Given all this great news of community, though, I have found community is equally a mentality as much as related to physical space with others. Most elders, through both their words and actions, advocate for physically being close to family, friends, and community members, which is supposed to be the most obvious characteristic of happy coexisting. I have found, though, with the included feeling that I am largely being frowned upon, that an equally strong sense of happiness can be found in physical distance from other humans, simply because I am physically away from the confines of community for a given time, does not suppose that I am not intangibly contributing to its well-being. Actually, through solitude, I have found that my being can be most fully found. This is when I discover that which is reality, or rather what reality is not, with a bit more confidence. In short, I meditate, ponder, and artfully record what comes. This mentality helps me upon my physical return to the village's happenings and people. For there is a tendency of oversimplicity of thinking and communicating. There is worrying, wastefulness, and other superfluity in action. For example, you discover the need for humans to always feel that they are correct in their beliefs, both culturally and individually. There are meaningless arguments for who ruined the rice, or taking too long on a given task, or the proper way to behave towards children. I say meaningless because none of us have reason altogether, but fragments of it. The trouble is which fragments are right ones and wrong. For we won't be certain until after we die. However, society is full of this argumentative reasoning mentality, with its usage of should and shouldn't. This all seems to be connected to this collective unconsciousness we call culture, which is not the same as community. Community is dealt with by mutuality, whereas culture by obligation, with the phrase, "we have always done this with apparent success." So it's been onerous lately since I have discovered a deeper level of consciousness and finding a form of well-being while living in community. People ask for help with domestic business or political affairs, and I think, for what? What would that even achieve? Plus, why is that worth a wisp of attention? This has continued further and further, and now it's nearly on the cusp of finding the irrelevance in formerly vital things like old friendships, physical appearance, and health, being considered intelligent or hardworking, or even nice. In my culture, being nice, or being considered nice, rather, resembles the ultimate trustworthiness with which you can climb the social tree. However, being nice for me is not the same species as compassion, which requires greater consciousness, found through meditation and pondering. Compassion is the observable evidence that your spirit is rooted to the roots of other spirits. With this mentality and way of life, patience will foster, which is the spear or fishing net of wise people. In our culture, also in that of the outside world, the idea of useful is as frequent and popular as peace and silence are for me. In this sense, people are looked at as tools for completing a task, and not only people but plants, animals, rivers, and even ideas. They say, "Oh, lovely, I can use this to do that, and then this." Where I say, "For what end?" I ask you, when was the last time you did or thought something believed to be useless? They say, "Well, I rest and sleep, which help me." Wait. Yes, that means you believe them useful for another objective, the ultimate objective of happiness and well-being. Do you realize this? Do they know how to live in a way where happiness is best procured and harvested? I sure can show you the way, not to head, where we are heading now. I sure can show you. Stop being busy, follow me, and live vitally. It's all based on practicing your mind and spirit to pay attention to life's complexity and unpredictability. This is all part of well-being, physically, emotionally, philosophically, which takes brave, courageous, yet hopefully achievable lifestyles. How am I living such a style? One would logically ask. I constantly keep ultimate visions in my consciousness, specifically how I want to have been when I die, which is life's ultimate task. Why did I choose the verb tense have been? Well, it means you start now and not stop until your existence does. It's about living through yourself, but towards others, God, and nature. Are these even different? I don't know. Do what you advocate and encourage others to do the same. Every choice in your life is an opportunity to continue its marvelous wonder. Search, be, breathe, sing, create, wander and wonder, laugh and cry, hug and kiss, sit and ponder. Do what is necessary with the same intention as creating art. Why are they even considered opposing each other? I have not seen or experienced a more beautiful work than living daily life as oneself. The merging of our tasks and spirituality is our next step as a species, as far as I can see it. Who's going to merge with me? To move constantly, to beautifully express ourselves, to ponder what is incomprehensible, to connect our spirits and hearts, and enjoy food, drink, and music. This all requires encouragement for others, which means to give heart, to make a bold choice of being our true natural selves.